The last bell rang, its echo cutting through the quiet air of the compound, signaling the start of another day, only this time, something felt different. Inside the brightly lit office of the principal, a meeting was taking place that would forever change the lives of 4 young souls. Outside, they stood at the gates, their faces a mix of excitement and uncertainty, their eyes fixed on the towering building that seemed to cast an intimidating shadow over their small, fragile hearts. 4 children, all from the same Christian family of traveling evangelists, had just arrived at the boarding school, each clutching their suitcase like a shield against the unknown. Their parents, who spent most of their lives spreading the word of God to the farthest corners of the earth, had finally decided that it was time for their children to have stability, a place where they could grow, learn, and become the people they were destined to be. But as they stood at the gates of St. Augustine's boarding school, none of them knew the darkness that was lurking inside. The air was thick with the scent of freshly cut grass and the murmurs of students scattered across the campus. The building, an imposing structure of brick and stone, loomed like a fortress, its windows dark and mysterious, as if hiding secrets from the world outside. The principal, a stern-looking man with a tight smile, ushered the children into the main hall, where a group of students were already assembled for the morning assembly. The children's names were quickly written down in the school register. They were introduced as new students, and after a brief exchange of formal pleasantries, they were handed their school uniforms, perfectly pressed, but heavy in their hands. The weight of the clothes seemed to symbolize the heavy expectations that now sat on their shoulders. Despite their uncertainty, the children tried to act brave, but it didn't take long before they realized that St. Augustine's was not like the small towns they had grown up in. Here, the students walked with an air of importance, their eyes cold and unwelcoming. The walls were adorned with religious symbols, but there was something off about the way the school embraced its faith, something that made the children uneasy. It wasn't long before they encountered their first trial. During their first meal in the school dining hall, the older students took every opportunity to make them feel small. The senior girls, their faces painted with forced smiles, eyed the new students as they sat at the long wooden tables. One of the older girls, her voice low but clear, made a comment about the children's clothes, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Look at them," she whispered to her friends. "They think they are so special because they come from those evangelist families. I bet they have no idea what it's really like here." The children sat in silence, the sting of the words cutting deeper than they could have imagined. They looked around, trying to find a friendly face, but no one seemed to notice. The older students had already formed their groups, their alliances, and it was clear that they didn't have room for the newcomers. That night, as the children lay in their dormitory, the sounds of whispered conversations filled the room. The younger students, curious about the newcomers, pressed close to them. It wasn't long before the older students appeared, walking silently down the corridor, their eyes filled with a strange intensity. The new children tried to ignore them, pretending to sleep as the older girls passed by, their laughter echoing down the hall. But what they didn't know was that this laughter was just the beginning. The true horrors of St. Augustine's School would reveal themselves soon enough. The following days brought no relief. Each morning, the children gathered for prayers, their heads bowed in reverence, but the voices of the students around them felt empty. The rituals, the songs, the prayers, they all seemed hollow, as if the faith they were supposed to hold onto had been twisted into something darker. And it wasn't just the atmosphere that felt wrong. The teachers, though polite, kept their distance, their smiles too practiced, their eyes too calculating. One night, when the children were lying awake in bed, a low voice echoed through the dark room. "They can't hear you," the voice said softly, like a whisper on the wind. "The voices in your head, they're the only ones who can." The children froze. Was it a dream? Or something more? But they didn't dare speak of it. The whispers were growing louder, their meaning more sinister. Something was coming. But what they didn't know was that their parents' prayers, though distant, had not gone unheard. The force of good would soon meet the forces of evil in a battle that no one at St. Augustine's could have anticipated. And the children, despite their fears, would soon find themselves standing at the center of it all.